anything wrong.
And I think that perhaps got the respect of also Digong, no? I think, we can talk about Digong very shortly, no? Speaking of Sabog and all of that. Napansin ko, the thing with Digong is, I don't know, based on my own interaction, I think gusto niya even the fact that even if I criticize him, I do it, in a feisty way. I think he just likes feisty people, no? I don't
Yes.
it's only because, your father-in-law was, had that thing with Pinoy. No, I think it's more than that. I think na-impress si President Duterte sa kanya. But so what you're saying is that your understanding is Mayor Magalong is the right man for the right moment, essentially. That's what you're saying. And as his son-in-law, you feel, you know, he should welcome this, right? Rather than having reservations and all. And you feel that, perhaps the Filipino people should be happy about the rise of these kinds of political figures. I mean, we're not endorsing him for any office per se. We're just saying he is occupying a certain space in the political landscape, right? And that's what we're analyzing here.
Yeah. Well, I agree. Kasi pag titignan mo naman talaga, uh, we need major changes when it comes to like people who we elect as our leaders, di ba?
Right, right.
Kasi nasanay na tayo sa nasanay tayo talaga sa people who capitalizes on the poor kahit
Yes.
kahit walang hindi marunong, basta may natulungan, basta magpa-promise sa'yo na tutulungan yung mahihirap, then you're panalo ka na, 'di ba? It's all in the
Puso,
bank,
parang
panalo.
gilas lang, puso, kahit walang diskarte,
Well,
kahit walang coaching na matino, basta puso lang. Yeah, yeah.
yun din ang sa tingin ko one part of being a Baguio boy din kasi yung parang sinasabi nila na parang yabang-yabang kasi we are pragmatic eh. Parang marami tayong practical side ng mga bagay-bagay. And we assess actually ma sa practical side ng mga bagay-bagay. Tapos pag nakikita kasi ng ibang tao yon who actually parang put more weight on their emotions, they cannot understand you. They cannot understand me. Kasi nga, nasasaktan sila to begin with eh. So when you tell things to them, parang wala na. They will dismiss you immediately kasi nga, nasaktan na sila eh. So your opinion or whatever you are saying, even if it's factual or it's the right thing, you're dismissed already because they're hurt. Ganun na.
Yeah. Kapsat, I mean, the other thing I want to say, like, one of the things I realized with Baguio is that, again, I'm not overselling our city. It's just that we have a different environment. I mean, this is an American-built city. The American legacy of
Yes.
egalitarianism is very strong. I mean, almost there's a Protestant ethic to Baguio, in ways that you don't see I mean, in a sense that kung punta ka sa Baguio, walang feudalismo, no? I mean, your dad could be a doctor, my dad could be an ordinary janitor, but we're still gonna play basketball together. We're still gonna go, I
Yes.
don't know, play, meet each other, I don't know, in Nevada Square or something like that. No, it's very different.
Tama.
Yeah, I don't know about you, but for me, culture shock ang Manila. Like you come here, yung mga konyo have their own world. There's a bar for the
Yeah.
konyos. There's a bar for mga, alam mo na, yung parang I just felt that's like weird because hindi ganun sa Baguio. I mean, may mga kaibigan tayo na magarang kotse, kami walang kotse. Okay lang, like there's no discrimination. It doesn't. And I felt, and there's a very strong middle class spirit, no, and this kind of a sense of mobilized civil society, middle class. So much more Americanized. I would say mas feudal kasi ang much of the Philippines.
Tama.
Despite our pretensions, I think the Spanish legacy is quite strong. No offense to our Spanish friends. So, yun lang. So I that's why I think that explains why Baguio people, when we go to Manila, when we go other places, may kakaiba tayong creed. Let's just call it the Baguio creed, no? I'm not gonna say it's superior, but I'm just saying it's a different creed, no? And I think that also explains yung sensibilities natin and how we respond or how we don't respond to how things are done
Yes.
in an unusual way. But I think in a way, that also explains yung rebelde spirit that all of us have, because I think all of us are bakit ganun, di ba? Bakit hindi pa pwede maging I know I'm gonna sound like Davao, pero why not parang Baguio most of the Philippines, right? Like kung sabi ni Binay, ganito kami
Malamig
ganito
ang
kami sa
mountain.
Baguio. Di ba? Ganito kami sa Baguio, right? I mean, why can't we have it in the rest of the country? Why all of these silos, all of these gated communities, etc. So even though may mga iba nakala nila konyo tayo, actually very Baguio boy tayo, no? If you meet us in person, easy to talk kami. Walang wall, walang ekek, all of this nonsense that I experienced when dealing with the posh people here in Manila, no? Now we can talk about your father-in-law more, and let's not overdo this. Now let's go to the meat of the discussion. No, now, before we go to Tulfo, we have to talk or Tulfo brothers. Let's talk about Digong. What is your understanding of Digong's rise to prominence and his legacy, particularly the war on drugs? How do you understand that? Because I mean, you can understand for people like me, I've been working mainstream media. Those are not the best years of our lives, right?
Yes.
Just to put it mildly. And in fact, as I always say, Kaisa, we make it about ourselves. We rather make it about all those victims, right? I know there are a lot of journalists who try to portray themselves as like they're some sort of Mandela, but they're not, right? I mean, I've been in North Korea, I've been China. Those are real authoritarian countries. So I know some journalists exaggerate, but never mind them. For me, the issue is all those victims of EJKs. And more importantly, damage to sa institution natin and this valorization of political will, even if it means violation of rule of law. Let's talk about that because I think that's where you really come into picture, Kapsat.
Well, ako rin naman kasi I have parang on ground na na experience when it comes to the effect of the war on drugs.
Parang ban advice style na on the ground. Okay, let's go.
Kasi I handle cases din in relation to drugs, tapos dito sa Taguig may lugar din na talamak talaga yung droga. So many people go to my office for consultations, tapos syempre pag merong mga kaso tungkol sa droga, they also go to me. So I actually felt the effect of what Digong did. To be fair sa kanya, marami rin na naging magandang epekto. Just like in one of the places here in Taguig before na talamak sa droga, hindi makakalabas yung mga tao doon kapag gabi kasi nga ang daming I have regular clients kasi many of them are from Taguig. Hindi nakakalabas yung mga tao doon kasi nga siga na yung mga nagdudurog tsaka yung mga drug pushers, tapos yung mga nakagamit. Siga na sila, especially pag gabi na. So hindi na sila nakakalabas. Then eventually yung naging linabas ni Digong yung war on drugs niya, yung takot ng mga tao, yung sinasabi niyo na kasi may lumabas na extrajudicial killing, di ba? Sinasabi ni Digong na patayin. Di ba? Patayin. Tapos pag ganito, sige, pag lumaban, patayin niya agad. So, ang daming nag-a-accuse na na pinapatay na lang para hindi na makatakas, hindi na makapagpiyansa, hindi na dumaan sa judicial system. Parang ganon. So, maraming nagreklamo doon. Pero yung flip side nun, marami rin yung nagsabi sa akin na dahil doon sa lumabas na may extrajudicial killings, yung mga mayayabang sa amin, sabi niya ganyan, nagtago na. So yun din yung
So you're saying it's a mixed bag. You're saying it's a mixed bag.
Yeah.
There's a pros and cons. It's not just a straightforward, even positive.
Pag ito lang yung tungkol sa tungkol sa pananakot na ginagawa nung administration. Just the let's not go to the truth yet. Kasi of course, if as a lawyer, if it was really an extrajudicial killing, that's against the law. Yung pumatay diyan, dapat nakulong. Yon, walang dispute doon, walang problema doon. Tapos syempre, kapag may nahuli, hindi naman talaga dapat patayin yan, idaan sa proseso. Due process, file a case in court, tapos dismiss, kung madi-dismiss o hindi. Ang problema kasi, maraming nadi-dismiss din kasi na kaso in relation to drugs because it's very difficult to prove. Lalong-lalo na maraming marunong din yung mga tao, tapos syempre, if they are in business for a very long time already, the biggest sharks, the biggest fishes are the hardest to catch. Kaya nga lumaki silang ganyan eh. Kung tatanga-tanga sila, maliit pa lang yan, nahuli na. Di ba? So the biggest fish really are the hardest to catch because they're the smartest. Sila yung pinakaalam kung ano yung ginagawa nila. Ngayon, nung lumabas yun, natakot. So, yun yung parang yun yung parang plus niya. Pero of course, extrajudicial killings still, if it happens, or if there were extrajudicial killings, they should go to jail.
Okay. Magandang usapan 'yan kasi, maraming layers dito 'no. So yung isang layer dito is unang-una yung tanong, saan galing yung listahan ni Digong, 'di ba? So marami nag-question whether itong listahan was vetted by yung mga relevant agencies, and marami tayong mga reports na sinasabi na yung mga relevant agencies themselves ay hindi nila alam saan galing yung listahan ni Digong. And now that's very important because yung listahan na 'yan ay basihan ng mga operasyon and basihan ng potentially even extrajudicial
Yes.
activities, no? Or at the very least nag-create siya ng stigma sa ibang politikos, no, in the worst way possible, no. So kung manood kayo for instance yung documentary na Delikado, yung mayor for instance ng El Nido ay na parang natag, no, dun sa drug list, although contention nila is nakalaban nila yung mga aliado ni Digong sa Palawan. So this was essentially used as a political leash, no. So there's that element, no. Yung first of all, saan galing yung datos? Kasi minsan sinasabi ni Presidente Digong 3 million, minsan 4 million, minsan hindi namin 1 million. So for me, from a public policy standpoint, at nakausap din natin yung father-in-law mo dyan, is evidence-based dapat yung public policy. So speaking of evidence-based, first of all, dapat siguraduhin na saan galing datos. And para sa akin, hanggang ngayon, hindi pa rin masyado clear sa akin. No? I'm getting a lot of contradictory statements on that. Pangalawa, naintindihan ko na sa konteksto ng Davao, si Pangulong Digong, kilalang-kilala niya yung mga tao doon, especially mga pulis, no? Kapulisan, nakilala niya yung pamilya na, pag Christmas pupunta sa bahay nila, si Bato, nung head ng Davao dati, kilalang-kilala niya. Ang tanong naman is, doon sa national level, handa ba or nagkaroon ba ng sapat na preparasyon, or was there enough of cleaning to make sure na, kasi alam natin may mga scalawags talaga dyan, aminado naman yung mga presidente natin, before they were unleashed on the streets, no? The third layer ay ganito. Ang third layer naman is, okay, granted na may fear factor, which is what you were implying, you were saying actually, arguing, gaano ka sustainable yan? Because if you're just gonna scare away the hyenas for 3 days, 3 years, but they're gonna come back in 4 to 5 years, you're not really solving the problem, right? Parang it's just showmanship or stopgap measure. And the fourth level of analysis, so you could see na inisip ko ng malaliman tong issue na to. At nakausap ko maraming tao, including diehard Duterte supporters like yung best friend natin si Banat Bay, di ba? The fourth layer naman is, okay, may mga namatay na allegedly mga drug lords. Pero katulad ng sinabi mo, I mean, saan yung talagang big fish, di ba? We're not gonna name names, pero one of them was supposedly Malacanang. May picture pa sila Indigo. Next thing you know, wala na siya sa eksena. And number 5, in fact, na-interview ko si Prime Minister Mahathir, no, when he was here in 2019. At nakausap ko siya sa issue ng drug na. And Prime Minister Mahathir said, the drug problem is an external problem. He didn't say China, but you could guess where he was saying. So, kung talagang gusto mong, you want to interdict, you have to do it really at the level of Coast Guard, Customs. There has to be international approach, hindi lang yung local level lang. So, for me, yun yung concern ko na I understand. I think wala naman sa atin nagsasabi na baliwala natin itong issue ng criminality at droga. In fact, nakausap po natin dito sa podcast natin si Secretary Llamas na dating Political Affairs Secretary ni Aquino, and pati siya, aminado siya na isa sa mga weaknesses ni Pinoy was that medyo hindi pinabayaan yung issue ng law and order, or at least they were seen as being soft on that issue. So yun yung yun yung entry point ko, and the reason I talk to is because what's fundamentally at stake here is a constitutional democracy and the rule of law, 'di ba? Kasi hindi naman rule of law yung basta kung sinong presidente, kung anong interpretation niya, let it be, di ba? Regardless of what court says, whatever standard interpretation of the law says. And for me, what we saw was more like rule by law. Parang almost Chinese style, di ba? Yung parang anti-corruption ni Xi Jinping. Okay, pumasok kayo sa isang room, 10 yung corrupt, yung 4 kaibigan ko, unahin ko muna yung kabila, di ba? I mean, it was a very politicized kind of approach, and yun yung accusation. So lahat naman tayo anti-drugs dito. Ayaw natin ng droga. We want approach. Tanong was the Duterte approach inevitable, or was the conduct of the war on drugs under Duterte inevitable? Or perhaps we could have done some adjustments, tactical adjustments, or strategic adjustments? Because I think it's an ongoing debate which we could have. Because I think in principle, lahat naman tayo nag-agree na may problema talaga. Ang tanong is, what's the best solution? Because if the medicine is gonna kill the patient, then you're not a very good doctor, right? So that's where I'm coming from, Kapsat, no? Yeah.
Ang ano ko lang, ang take ko lang doon, well, it was inevitable nung na-elect na siya. Kasi people want that kind of leadership eh. Bago pa naman siya tumakbo noon, nagmumura na siya, nagbabanta na siya, ginagawa niya na lahat yon. So nung nanalo siya, ibig sabihin, the people wants that kind of leadership. Pero ang tanong diyan, were they parang is that really what they wanted? Eventually, nung nandoon na, parang wait, sandali. Parang mali yata yung may mga ganun eh. Many people sabi nila, this is what we want. Syempre, yung part ng other many people, this is not what we wanted. Meron din yung iba na, well, sandali, parang parang sumasobra na. So it's really inevitable kasi nga siya yun eh. Kunwari, kumbaga tinuloy niya lang kung ano yung nagustuhan ng mga tao sa kanya. Ngayon, yung tungkol sa listahan, I was against it from the very beginning. Kasi nga, well, that will create a lot of parang problems with the people who were mentioned doon sa listahan na yon. And ang problema kasi diyan, yung listahan na yon, obviously hindi naman dumaan sa due process, and I guess we are all for due process. Siyempre, ang magsasabi lang naman na ikaw ay nagpo-promote ng droga o kaya nagbebenta ka ng droga, yung korte. Patunayan mo doon. Nung linabas niya yung listahan na yun, tapos binasa niya pa, I was really against it. Pati yung pagmumura niya, I'm also against it. Kasi nga, syempre, I believe that statespersons should still parang project at least, di ba, a good image na pag nakita rin ng ibang bansa, uy, gusto kong kausapin ito. Parang ganun. Kaya lang, like I said, well, the Philippines wanted it. And if someone sits there in that particular position, ang akin lang, I will actually support them because they're my president already. Pero, syempre, I will not 100% naman support them even doon sa hindi magandang ginagawa nila. So I was also critical doon sa mga hindi magandang ginagawa niya. The problem also here dito sa politics din dito sa Pilipinas, ang isang malaking problema rin kasi diyan. Many politicians really want to parang they look forward to the next election. Kaya ang mangyayari diyan, kung sino yung pinakamaraming boto, didikit ka doon. Para next election makikita nila yung mga sumuporta sa taong ito, baka magkaroon ng suporta din sa akin galing sa kanya. So parang ganun yung nangyayari. So
parang bandwagoning.
Yeah, bandwagoning. Tapos in essence, ang ginagawa na lang nila they just go to parang they just parang praise o kaya nakikipaghalubilo na lang sila dun sa mga politikong malalakas because they don't need to perform anymore. What they would need to do only is to get elected. Kasi habang nananalo naman ako, kahit wala naman akong ginagawa, so what's the point of even working? Di ba? Makikipagsosyalan na lang ako. Tapos pag may sinabi ito, sasabihin ko na rin para solve na yung susunod na election ko. Yun ang malaking problema yun.
So, Kapsa, so you're ambivalent about this? I mean, that's the sense I get, that you're ambivalent. Like you parang your hammer is not coming down on one side. What you're saying is that what happened, and there are many reasons for it, and we still have to properly understand and deconstruct what's happening. Is that reading na medyo ambivalent ka dito sa legacy?
Well, actually not. It's just a matter of what's right and what is wrong. Siyempre, kapag meron namang administrasyon na umupo, my position is it's not all masama. Kasi nga, syempre, may ginagawa rin yung mga yan. They are also working.
Ako na, I mean, to be fair to President Duterte, sorry for cutting you, I think tama siya doon sa Bangsamoro. I call that his finest hour. So, I give credit for credit due. I think ang ganda ng effect. Pumunta ako sa Mindanao, pumunta ako sa even Marawi noong 2019. Nakausap ko natin yung mga tao on the grounds. In fairness, on many levels, things improved naman, diba? And now we see the countries moving in the right direction. I think tama rin siya in terms of raising some very good questions in terms of etong US pa, reliable ba? Do we get what we deserve? So even if sa foreign policy, I have many disagreements with President Duterte, I think he raised some very, very good questions. The reason why I'm raising the Duterte legacy issues, because of course this brings us inevitably to Tulfo, no, to Tulfos. But before we go there, no, I wanted to ask you because andun yung batas, andun yung saligang batas, andun yung ideals ng rule of law. At the same time, andito yung katotohanan, no? Yung broken institutions na meron tayo. Yung agwat, ang laki kasi ng gap eh. So minsan, I think that makes a mockery out of our justice system, di ba? Na ang layo, di ba? I mean, just the numbers are crazy, no? Like 60% pretrial detainees, second or third largest congestion of prison systems, one of the lowest per capita budgets, and one of the highest ratios of a single judge in like 744 cases. Like I look at all the numbers, no, from a public policy standpoint. It's a difficult, if not a broken, justice system. Kaya here I'm gonna argue against myself and say, naintindihan ko rin saan galing iba kasi nawawalan sila ng pag-asa, nawawalan sila ng kumpiyansa dito sa sistema natin kasi justice delayed is justice denied, and yung delay sa Pilipinas, next level delay, di ba? Grabe. So, naintindihan ko na in a way, yung situation ni Digong, his vigilante justice, if I can put it that way, or penal populism, whatever, was a kind of a lightning strike, no? Na parang wait lang, etong status ko ay hindi sustainable. Kaya nga sabi ko siguro ngayon, we can talk about yung Digong legacy because we have to pick up the pieces and realize how to move forward. Now, ikaw bilang isang tao na involved on the ground, you see the courts. I mean, tignan mo naman yung mga courts natin. I mean, no offense, di ba? I mean, you and I have seen the Supreme Courts in the US and other countries. Like, yung like just the majesty of the building matches yung majesty of the aspirations. Now, no offense, nakapunta tayo sa mga korte dito sa Pilipinas, like, ang laki ng gap, bro eh. Diba? I don't want to go Virginia Woolf and talk about how material conditions shape ideals, realization. Pero, ang laki ng gap, pare. Ako, nag-aaral din ako sa public university sa UP. Ang ganda ng mga tinituro sa amin. Wala naman aircon. Diba?
Yes.
You know, this makes it trivial, bro. Pero naintindihan ko kasi yung mga abogado natin kaibigan, sinasabi sa atin na nakakadismaya naman pagpasok mo pa lang doon sa courtroom, ganito yung itsura, ganun. Maliit na ulo ng judge. So, do you get what I'm saying? So actually, I'm empathetic dun sa frustration that brought someone like Duterte into picture. Ang akin lang naman is, I think we also have a proper examination na ano ba talaga yung legacy para we can pick up the baby without the bathwater. So ang tanong dito is, what is the baby, what is the bathwater? No? So parang yun yung conversation na meron tayo. So yung mga supporters ni Tatay Digong ganun, please don't get it wrong because we're not here to make a judicial decision or even a moral decision. Kasi naintindihan namin saan galing frustration ng tao. Pero dapat, we make sense out of what happened and accordingly move forward. And by the way, a conversation na to, so it's a two-way. So okay, magalit kung marami akong sinasabi kasi this is supposed to be a conversation, not just like tanong lang ako and sagot yung isa. Again, what do you think, Absad? You understand also, di ba? Na I'm also wrestling with this kasi yung sarili nating kababayan na bumoto sa kanya, sarili nating kababayan sumuporta sa kanya. So ano, husgahin ko yung buong bayan, no? Hindi tama yan eh. We have to understand, we have to be empathetic, but we have to also find a solution. And dito ko na-appreciate yung si Mayor Magalong because when I asked him about this issue, he also had a very nuanced answer and all eh. Empathetic, hindi judgmental, but solution-oriented. So gusto rin kitang kausapin kasi you're a man of law eh. You're an officer of the court, diba? So gusto rin kitang kausapin on that, Kapsat.
Well, ang tama yung sinabi mo, no, na parang dapat pulutin natin kung ano yung maganda. Tapos, of course, bring to justice kung ano man yung hindi magandang nangyari. Pero, yun nga ang mahirap dito sa Pilipinas is we have problems with moving on. That's a very big problem that we have. Parang I think you being in the political scene for a very long time already, kahit yung isang tao tapos na yung kanyang termino and someone else should parang lead the country na or the city, makikita mo pa rin kasi yung mga tao na they cannot move on. If parang si Banat Bay. Si Banat Bay.
Mapunta na tayo dyan.
Hindi, example lang. Sinasabi niya na Marcos is not my president. Hindi niya daw presidente si Marcos. Hindi pwedeng ganoon eh. Unless hindi ka Pilipino, So, siya pa rin yung presidente mo because that's how democracy works. We have to accept it. Ang kailangan nating gawin ngayon, let's fine-tune everything. So eventually, if you think what you believe is the right thing and who you think yung parang ano ba, yung iniisip mo na na dapat leader ay siya dapat yung leader na uupo, then you have to make your move. You have to do your own little ways with you, starting with yourself, to fine tune it, to at least lead the country towards development or towards something that if you think better than what we have now, then we have to go there. Pero ang problema nga, may sasama ba sa'yo? Most of the time, wala. Kasi nga, if people set their minds already na ito yung susuportahan ko, kahit mali ang ginagawa niya, kahit tama yung ginagawa niya, siya yung susuportahan ko, well, sino sasama sa'yo? So yun yung more on tweaking the minds of the voters. Yun ang magandang gawin natin ngayon eh. That's why when I go to YouTube, in social media, I make people realize na yung justice system natin, wala kang choice. Yan lang yon. So kung sasabihin mo, walang kwenta yung justice system natin, justice delayed is justice denied. Yes, I agree with you. Kaya lang, do we have a choice? We don't have a choice. So we have to repair this one. We cannot change it. We cannot disregard it. Anong kailangan natin gawin? We have to fix it. So even in our little ways, we have to fix it because we have no choice. Hindi naman tayo pwedeng, okay, parang sa presidente rin. Okay, presidente kita, yung presidente ngayon, presidente ko. Yung susunod na presidente, hindi ko presidente. You cannot choose that. And whatever happens, you will be affected by it. You'll be affected by the justice system. You'll be affected by the president. You'll be affected by your mayor. Ang iniisip kasi ng mga tao din, wala na silang pakialam. Tapos magrereklamo na lang. Ang tanong, wait, may magagawa ka pa eh. The problem now is many people give up already. If we can give the power back to the people, they will forget idolatry. Sinasanto na, Diyos na nila yung mga politiko nila eh.
Yeah, medyo kulto-kulto na eh.
Kulto na nga eh. Let's make ano ba tawag doon? I hope there is one day, ito mas maganda, may isang pagkakataon dito sa Pilipinas wherein people will actually realize the term public servant. Na ito yung nagsiservisyo sa tao. Tapos, ikaw ang may kapangyarihan. You have the power. You are the people. You're the most powerful here. Ang nangyayari kasi, madali mauto yung Pilipino eh. Bigyan mo ng konting ganto, bigyan mo ng konting ganyan. Uy, tinulungan ako niyan. Iboboto ko na siya. Uy, gusto ko to. Kasi matapang siya. Nagmumura. Goods yan. Iboto natin. Iba-iba yung, parang, sandali, ano ba yung qualifications kasi na kailangan natin sa isang posisyon? Di ba? Ito. Nakasulat ba doon yung nagmumura?
Problema, di ba? Attorney Libayan, I mean, isn't this the problem na dun sa ating saligang batas, yung qualification bilang isang presidente ay kumpara doon sa qualification na maging janitor, di ba? Minsan kailangan pa ng college degree. Doon sa presidente, di ba, yung biro is read and write, never mind understand, di ba? So, yun nga yung problema natin na parang do you think na our democratic legal institutions were organized in a way that promotes mediocrity by nature or celebrity politics? Again,
wala naman akong problema doon.
Question to eh, pero gusto ko lang sabihin yan, yeah.
Wala naman akong problema doon kasi nga it's still the people who chooses eh. So, tulad nga ng sinabi ko, we have to educate the people. Yung mga tao ang dapat parang pumili ng tama. Kasi eventually, you will suffer the consequences of your choices. Pag mali yung pinili mo, tignan mo mangyayari din sa bansa mo. Ang problema nga kasi hindi tayo natututo kasi many people gave up already. At least binigyan ako ng pera. Wait, sandali. Sabi mo sa kanya, kung binigyan ka ng 500 yun, pag pinili mo yung maayos na tao, hindi lang 500 ang matatanggap mo. Kasi I've been a part of many political campaigns. And I talk to many people in caucuses, house to house. Maraming tao nag-resign na talaga to the fact na wala na tayong pag-asa. So kung ano yung maibibigay sa akin nito, anong maibibigay sa akin nito, I'll just take it. Tapos iboboto ko na lang kung sino gusto mong iboto ko. Ito, sige, ito yung boboto ko. Ito, kilala ko, ito iboboto ko. Gano'n na lang eh. They don't take voting seriously. Yun ang malaking problema.
So what you're saying is that ang problema natin is yung kombinasyon ng cynicism, yung wala nang pag-asa, scrape the button na lang.
Yeah.
Okay na yung 500, pwede na yan. Kahit hindi na mangyari yung eskwela, yung bridge, yung roads,
Yes.
dapat gawin nila. Kasi mag-ROI na yung mga politiko, return on investment.
Yeah.
Di ba? 10 to 1, 100 to 1. At the same, so yung wag rin yung pagka-ilusyonado din natin na parang you can just wish away na ito yung presidente natin. Okay, for this next 6 years, hindi ko yung presidente. So kung every time
tama, di ba?
BM or Digong, i-deny ko, hindi ko naman siya binoto eh. I will just forget about the fact na Pinoy ako, di ba? Parang you're saying both of these are very problematic mindsets. Because yan tayo, never tayo mag-improve. Because you cannot improve something that you cannot accept as it is first. I mean, hindi mo pwede gawin, let's say, I don't know, kung football, Cristiano Ronaldo isang maliit na player, kung sa una pa lang may illusion ka na Cristiano Ronaldo na siya kaagad or hopeless case na siya, di ba? You work step by step, di ba? And parati ko sinasabi, yung mga bansa na hinahanga natin ngayon, yung Norway, New Zealand, do you think they started like that? No. I mean, yung mga Scandinavian countries, mga Viking countries yan dati, nagpapatayan lang sila. It took them centuries and decades of mobilization, civil society activities, reforms, maraming nagsakripisyo. Hanggang dumating sila dito, or yung Amerika, parati ko sinasabi, well, maybe US is even more relevant dahil yung sistema natin was copycatted from late 19th century US, not even New Deal US. Panoorin mo yung movies na Gangs of New York or even Boardwalk Empire na pasok na sa 20th century. Literally yung office of mayor, away yan ng mga mafia groups, Irish groups versus Italian groups. Like, this is Estados Unidos just 100 years ago. Way worse than us. So, hindi sila magically naging mas maayos na bansa. Of course, I mean, may Trump na ngayon, but you get what I'm saying? Like, feel ko hindi na-appreciate ng tao na naalala mo pare yung si Sean Marion, yung nag-NBA na nag-shoot ng ganyan. I don't know, sa naalala mo ganyan siya mag-shoot. Sabi,
tama.
Basketball lang yun eh. If kaagad ganyan ka mag-shoot, hindi mo talaga ma-shoot yan. So si Sean Mark, step by step, until na perfect niya, pwede niya ganun. Kasi mahirap siya i-block, di ba, pag ganyan. Sabi ko, if you just copy the final product, you will not be Sean Marion. But if you go through the process and you perfect shooting, then you can be like Sean Marion kasi ang hirap niyang tapalan eh, from here kasi sa
Exactly.
So you're missing point A to Z. You're just looking at Z and saying, A lang tayo, hopeless case na tayo, wala at malang or pretend na lang tayo na Z tayo. Like those are loser mindsets. Those are self-defeating mindsets.
Yeah.
And yun nga kasi kung kulto yung politika, you will pretend that the letter A leader is Z level, which he's not or she's not, right? So nagigets ko saan ka galing. So I think we're very similar in the sense of very nuanced yung take natin eh na kailangan natin tanggapin na ito yung sitwasyon pero hindi yung sabihin hanggang dyan na lang tayo. Pero hindi tayo mag-forward kung hindi rin natin tanggapin yung katotohanan, di ba? So I appreciate where you're coming from because I think this is what kailangan marinig ng tao. Kasi yun nga yung pansin ko, Kapsat, no? Like people go and watch yung mga bloggers or intellectuals or journalists who just affirm their bias. Ay, sino yung dyan nagbabash kay ganito kasi ayoko siya? Or sino yung pro ganito?
Tama.
And sa tingin ko, hopeless case tayo.
Hindi ka napapakinggan.
Hopeless case tayo. I mean, you can still have huge engagement dun sa silos mo, pero wala ka ng influence outside. Hanggang dyan ka na.
Wala ka.
I mean, one thing I'm proud about is, people from all across political spectrums reach to us. Leaders from, I'm not gonna name names, because they know si Haydarian, makulit yan, may sariling pag-iisip yan, walang sinasanto yan eh. I criticize Aquino, I criticize Duterte, well, sometimes I criticize one over the other kasi mas palpak, di ko naman kasalanan yan. And BBM, let's see what's gonna happen. But so far, Kapsat, I know both of us are solid North Baguio boy, but what's your sense with BBM? Because ako on foreign policy, I'm quite happy. I just came from ASEAN Summit, I gave a talk there, and I just got updates about President BBM. Ang ganda ng interventions na I really like things he said on South China Sea. And guess what? Actually, it matters what the president says. Kaya nga may issue tayo kay Digong.
Yes,
But don't say, ano lang,
exactly.
sabi-sabi lang ni BBM. No, no. BBM as the president saying that matters. So I'm quite happy with the foreign policy so far, although we can have a long discussion about EDCA, etc. in the future. But on the issue of rule of law, how do you feel about BBM? Because do you think BBM people are trying, or not BBM himself, but some of the people there are trying to do what we're trying to do, which is, okay, kailangan natin ng war on drugs, pero hindi pwedeng bara-bara. Parang we have to find the proper mean. I don't know if that's exactly happening, but the rhetoric that's coming out of DILG, Abalos, is that's exactly what they're trying to do. And I think that's where maraming DDS ay galit kay BBM because tingin nila he's not tough enough on drugs. No, I mean, what's your read on this, Kapsat?
Tulad na sinabi ko sa inyo, yung galit yung mga DDS kay BBM, ano na naman yun eh, it's because BBM is not Rodrigo Duterte. Kasi nga, syempre, because of the culto mentality, tribalism, many people are not okay with accepting change, especially when it comes to leadership. Kasi hanggang ngayon, well, you can only run for president once. Marami pa rin ang nagsasabi na parang siya yung president. Well, no, hindi na. Yan din ang problema natin kasi sa ang tawag doon, political dynasty. Because they think na, yung tatay magaling. Malamang magaling din yung anak. Magaling din yung apo. Lahat na sila. I-elect natin. Pero no, we've proven that many times already na it does more harm than good because actually, yung anak, ibang-iba doon sa tatay. Yun ang malaking nagiging problema dito. Tapos when it comes, ang criticism ko lang kay BBM ngayon, hindi siya masyadong firm. When it comes to pinapatupad yung mga gusto
Mabait
niyang
siya
ipatupad.
masyado? You think he's mabait siya masyado?
Well, parang ganon. Kasi parang he wants everything balanced. Na parang, okay, sige, pero
Chill lang.
ganito, parang walang masaktan, lahat kayo may piso, ganon. Hindi naman pwede. Kasi kung hindi na tama ito, sandali, ikaw, wag ka na. Siyempre, masasaktan siya. Yung tama, ikaw muna ngayon. Mamaya, pag tama ka na, alam mo yun, parang, that's how a leader should be. Kasi you're not concerned about the feelings of some people. You're supposed to be concerned about what is for the general welfare.
Okay, I get your conflict. Let me push back against this, no, because I think umiinit na yung discussion. I think this is what people were looking for, no. Ganito, first of all, naintindihan ko saan galing yung mga ibang DDS kasi sa tingin nila ang laki ng tulong ni Sara Duterte dun sa campaign ni Marcos Jr. I don't think Marcos would have gotten 60% of the votes if not for the unity team. Right? Now, pwede natin pagdebate yan. Marami nagalit sa ating mga kababayan natin na Ilocano, like Richard, ba't mo sinabi yan? But yes, the truth is, if BBM himself ran, probably he wouldn't get 60%, baka 20, 30, whatever. But that may be enough in a 5-man race or whatever. The second thing is, I think there was also an expectation na si BBM will be tough, at least like his father, if not like Tatay Digong. So I think there's also
diba?
who would have thought that we'll say our problem with the Ferdinand Marcos, is that he's soft, he's not too hard. But more importantly, after 6 years of Digong, hindi ba kailangan natin ng konting detox? Like medyo overcharged tayo eh. And lastly, let me tell you this. Totoo na yung lingwahe ni PBBM is soft. Pero tignan mo ilang na-purge sa kanya. Wala na si Vic Rodriguez, mukhang wala na rin si Juan Soriano. Ang dami, 7 cabinet members. Yung dati kong prof na National Security Advisor, pinalitan na rin. Iba na rin yung Defense Secretary, iba yung AFP chief, pinalitan ulit bigla. So, he talks softly, but they're doing stuff behind the scenes, right? They're shuffling. So, isn't it unfair to say na hindi siya firm because actually he's doing things except he's just not steering things up too much rhetorically? Or what you're saying is that nasanay na tayo kay Digong, dapat ganun na. Like, I'm just trying to push back against that argument because you're not alone. But you see, Nancy Binay nagsabi nun, di ba? I mean, of all people. So I completely understand where you're coming from, Kapsat. I'm just trying to explain why it actually makes sense for Marcos to do this. And so far, it's working for him. He's still a dominant president, 78% approval, right?
Tama. nakita ko kasi diyan when it comes to his parang influence in relation to the other branches of the government, especially with the Senate. Kasi nade-demoralize doon sa hearings in aid of legislation. That's why I don't really like that. Is because they accuse parang yung listahan ng drugs na ayaw natin pareho. That's what happens in the Senate Senate hearings in aid of legislation eh. They accuse people there and they parang prejudge people na you are guilty, you this, tapos kulong ka na, ganito na. Tapos yung mga cabinet secretaries ni Bongbong Marcos, when they go there, sila yung sila yung inuutusan ng mga senador o parang ano bang tawag doon? Ah,
Ini-break
parang
sila?
ini-easy-easy. Oo,
Ini-break sila.
dine-degrade tapos parang
Oo.
parang they don't have any respect to any of the alter ego of the president.
So,
Isipin mo,
what's that
cabinet
you're saying he has to draw the line? That's what you're saying. He has to show
yes.
who's the boss more
Oo,
aggressively.
tsaka yes and parang ah magkaroon din ng backbone yung mga secretaries na alter ego ng presidente to actually talk equally to their equals in relation to the branches of the government. Kasi pag manonood ka ng mga Senate hearings, namumura sila, pinapagalitan sila, para silang kawawa. Eh, according to the words of Raffy Tulfo, pag minura mo yung staff mo, minura ko yung staff ko, eh, minura mo yung staff ko, minura mo na rin ako. So ibig sabihin lahat sila minumura minumura rin si BBM. Why do you allow that? Yun din ang hindi kasi maganda na nagkakaroon na ng yung misconception yung mga tao na well, these are the most powerful people in the Philippines now, the senators. Kasi nga, kaya nilang utusan lahat dito, kahit dito sa executive department na dapat si Bongbong ang may hawak at nagmamando. Pati yung binanggit mo na naman yung sa foreign policy in relation to yung sa West Philippine Sea, yung mga senators na naman natin ang nagmamando kung ano yung gagawin ng mga nasa DFA. Pati sa OWA, kung ano yung gagawin doon, sila na naman. And pag sinunod nila, like for example, what happened with Raffy Tulfo doon sa Kuwait. Yung sinunod nila si Raffy Tulfo na iban yung pag-deploy ng mga domestic helpers. Nag-bite back ang Kuwait. Sabi niya, o di sige, wala kaming tatanggapin din na kung ayaw niyo magpadala. 'Di ba? Kasi sinunod nila yung pressure na galing sa
So, ang
Senado.
sinasabi mo is, dahil mabait, quote-unquote, yung presidente ngayon, bigla nagkakaroon ng mini Dutertes dyan who are taking
Yes.
stage and filling in the Duterte demand vacuum. I get what you're saying here. So what you're
Tama, 'di
the
ba? Kasi
president has to come and draw the line. And I actually agree with you in a sense that naalala mo yung Pampanga nung pumunta siya tapos si Secretary Season, incoming Water Secretary Season, dating DPWH ni Aquino, 'di ba? Parang yung isang Pampanga congresswoman, 'di ba? Handa na siya magdigong style. But that's where things got interesting because kung pinanood mo yan, you can actually check it on YouTube, no? Biglang si BBM cuts her down and explains the science na bakit may sensi season and then nakita mo na shock
tama.
bigla. Yung
Yeah,
and
napanood ko 'yun.
I felt yun yung dapat ipakita ni BBM na mabait ako pero don't take that as weakness because I can
Yes.
explain to you what an idiotic point you're making right now by
Yeah.
explaining the science to you, di ba? I just felt yun yung dapat i-maximize sila sa communications nila because
I agree. Dapat gano'n.
yun
Dapat
yung
hindi niya
moment
kailangan
exactly.
kasi tignan niyo lahat kasi ngayon because of the clamor for another kasi marami pa rin tulad nga sinabi ko sa inyo na DDS clamor for another digong. Yun nga sinabi mo. Yung ibang tao sila na yung nagdidigong kasi nga para doon na pumunta sa kanila. Para sila na yung sila na yung idolohin. Eh siyempre kawawa naman yung presidente natin.
It's the dilemma, right? This is the dilemma. Yet you may have issues with Digong, but you know there's a demand for a Digong-like leader But at the same time, how can you create a system led by strong institutions and rule of law kung meron kang digong... Kaya nga for me, isa sa mga pinaka-idol ko in history is Peter the Great, di ba? He came in a very, Russia, right? Of all... But he used yung strong leadership niya to build strong institutions. Yung Russian military, yung Academy of Sciences, which Catherine the Great built on. Now, of course, Philippines is a bit more advanced than 17th century Russia. But I just felt we need strong leaders who build strong institutions. And the problem is, parati may kulang eh. Either magaling yung institutional sense sila, pero mahina sila in terms of personal political capital. Or like Digong, ang lakas ng personal political capital, parang medyo hindi nag-invest dun sa institution or even counter to that. Medyo may kulang eh. Kasi it takes two to tango eh. Kaya ako, I understand the clamor of people for strong leaders. But it shouldn't stop there, no? But I want to ask another thing, Kapsat, no? To what degree sa tingin mo, yung isa pang problema dito ni BBM, which is, this is what hindi ko talaga na-expect. Proud ako na marami ako na-predict kay BBM. I mean, you could see yung pinaka-first article ko, the next day sa Nikkei Asia is no cause for panic. Because alam ko si BBM will be very different. Na-meet ko siya. He's Romualdez, hindi siya Marcos. He's chill, he's nice, he's urbane.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's progressive. I'm just saying. So
to cut you on that one, sa tingin ko nga kasi sa sobrang ito ewan ko kung pro o kaya con nito. Sa sobrang tinatawag siyang diktador. Parang, oops, wait, I will surprise you. Watch me. Ganun yata yung ginawa.
An overcorrection. So you're saying there's an overcorrection. You think he was so eager?
Yun nga, ayoko rin naman magkaroon ng overcorrection.
Yeah, I see what you're... But I wanted to just say this. One thing na hindi ko na-anticipate, Kapsata, na wala siyang mga vloggers bigla. Di ba? Ang hina ng communications niya. Nung time ng elections, parang invincible siya, di ba? Habang sila Lenny, may mga San Goku, yung mga like, yung ang suabe yung kay BBM, BTS look, bomber jacket, di ba? Tapos may Sandro, tapos ang ayos yung ginagawa ni Paul Soriano, di ba? Ang linis ni Vic Rodriguez. Like, now, all the vloggers ay kay Tatay Digong doon sa doon sa, I don't know, either, you know what I'm saying, or napunta kay Kiboloy, or yung, sino bang vlogger ni BBM ngayon? Si Nieto? I mean, nasaan ba si Nieto? Di ba? You get what I'm saying? Like, parang biglang may vacuum din eh. May communication vacuum eh. And that really, yun ang hindi ko na-anticipate. That's the one thing I never predicted, that within 1 year, wala. Kasi si Maharlika nga, I don't know kung kausap.
Meron akong hunch dyan kung bakit nangyari yon. Because during the elections, whenever you talk about BBM, maraming views. In other words, maraming kumita. Ngayon, after the elections, hindi na ganun karami yung views eh. So they have to find other niches na magkakaroon ng mas maayos na views. So I think ganun lang yung nangyari doon eh. Kaya marami din parang bumalik na sa dating gawe kasi nga hindi na katulad noon na pag ito yung pag-uusapan, kahit BS yung sinasabi mo, kahit walang kwenta yung sinasabi mo, pag nakita BBM, oops, instant, maraming views.
Kaya yun tayo, Itbulaga na lang tayo ngayon. Kasi yun yung my views, Showtime, Itbulaga. Yun na lang, bro, next time yun na lang pag-usapan natin, Itbulaga, Showtime, maraming mga...
Oo nga, TVJ, di ba?
Pero next time, bro, park natin yan, para special episode yan. Kasi, papunta na tayo sa Tulfos, right? I think you're already implying that some of the senators are filling in the kind of a Duterte vibes vacuum.
Yeah.
Effectively referring to Idol Rafi? I mean, where's your, I don't know how to put it, beef, if I can say, what's your beef with the Tulfos? I mean, of course, I know, but I'm asking it para lang ma-explain mo. Kasi a lot of people, I think, misunderstand you as like just the anti-Tulfo guy. And you know, of course, Tulfos are very popular right now. Ang laki na engagement nila. I mean, hindi naman tayo basta-bastang tao, pero malaki talaga yung mga Tulfos, di ba? For whatever reason, which we, of course, we can understand. Kasi ganito ang argument ko eh. Here is where I could be, hindi naman critical of you, but this is where, ang akin lang, parang nung tinanong kita kay Digong, very nuanced yung sagot mo, di ba? Pero pagdating sa Tulfos, parang you're more than 80% critical. Is it because si Digong was abogado